After childhood sexual abuse, you may have experienced the terror and fear that comes with being sexually aroused. That's because you would have been abused and felt terrified. At the same time, you may have been aroused because of the body's natural response. I often work with survivors of childhood sexual abuse who talk about how confusing it feels to try to reconcile the feeling of sexual arousal with terror, with this is not supposed to be happening, but at the same time, I'm getting some pleasure. This is not the case in every experience of childhood sexual abuse, but it can happen. And it's really important to distinguish between a physiological response and an emotional response. If there was arousal, that doesn't mean that you enjoyed the experience and you asked for it. There's so many nerve endings in our genitals, and it's all connected through to our brains, telling us certain physical sensations mean this. It's a very deep primal response. That doesn't mean because you experienced arousal during childhood sexual abuse that you enjoyed it. So let's get that out of the way. But what this does do, if that did happen to you, is every time as an adult, you start to get aroused and you start to feel that stream moving up through you, through your womb, through your heart, through your body. Generally, you won't even get to the heart because it starts moving up through the genitals. And those sensations carry terror and fear, trigger that within you. So as soon as you start to feel even a tiny little opening of arousal, you're also feeling the fear and your body's shutting down. So many of the cases of sexual dysfunction that I have had in clinical practice with both men and women have been because of unresolved childhood sexual abuse. The stream of arousal starts to open, and at the same time, their nervous system and their brain is starting to shut down. So their body's starting to contract. They're starting to go into fight or flight. They're starting to dissociate. And at the same time, they're wondering and confused about why they can't feel pleasure. It's very, very challenging to experience this over and over and over again, because we've been programmed to believe that sexual arousal should be this really pleasurable, easy thing, and we should just get turned on, and it should be wonderful experience, and then we should fully enjoy it, and then we have these earth-shattering orgasms and everything is amazing. And nobody talks about the fact that actually, to get to that place where you really are free in your own sexual energy, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of healing work to fully open up to our own sexual energy, to our own womb space, to this powerful, erotic and creative force. It takes everything away from us because it takes away all of our conditions and structures and programs. All of our wounds have to be healed for us to open up to pleasure at that deep level. So we go through life, maybe in our early teens, 20s, and we have these relationships and we kind of experience a certain degree maybe of pleasure, maybe of arousal, but it's kind of tainted. It's kind of muted. It's not really fireworks. It's not really what we imagine it could be. And then we just normalize it. Or we struggle to even feel aroused, because arousal starts and begins and starts to try to ignite, but doesn't get ignited because we have so much guilt. Now, for me, my journey was of going through a lot of religious emotional abuse and the shame that came with that, and that I held in my body and in my womb. So anytime I felt arousal, I immediately, it was accompanied by, you're doing something wrong. This is against God's law. You're not allowed to feel aroused, especially if it's on your own. But if you're aroused with a partner that you're not married to, then you are destined for hell. So you're going to burn, you're going to be punished, and you're not a good person. All of these voices, imagine, in my head, running through my nervous system and through my brain. So trying to feel arousal fully when you've got these programs, and you will know what you have been programmed to believe about sex, about arousal, about sexual energy, about your own body, you will know what your upbringing was like and what that has, how that's imprinted upon you. And if you've experienced childhood sexual abuse, the feeling of arousal can be even more threatening because it's accompanied by danger, not just, okay, this is not good, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm maybe not a good person, I've got guilt, but it's also accompanied by something bad is going to happen to me, maybe now. So what happens to the body when it's in danger? It shuts down, fight or flight. And usually for people who've experienced childhood sexual abuse, the fight is internal. It's an internal battle to allow arousal through the body, to feel it. It's an internal battle, and that battle is exhausting. It's contracting. In the end, what happens? People just give up. They just say, you know what, this is hard work. I'm not interested anymore. I'm not interested in having sex anymore. I'm not interested in feeling pleasure anymore because it's not pleasurable for me. And we need to start talking about this in a very real way to normalize the journey that everyone goes on to be able to open up more fully to pleasure by healing our wombs, healing our hearts, and healing our bodies. So I would invite you to do an exercise. And I've done this exercise and it was very powerful for me. And I've come up with this exercise because of what I experienced myself and what I have gone through myself, which is definitely been a journey of opening up to sexual pleasure, of accepting my arousal, of not judging it, of not shaming myself, of not telling myself while I'm aroused, I'm going to be punished at some point for this. There are repercussions, of accepting at a spiritual level, at a physical level, at an emotional level, what this powerful stream of arousal actually is, of clearing imprints from past relationship and past lovers where the arousal and the dynamic hasn't necessarily been pure, hasn't necessarily been healing, maybe has been tainted with power dynamics. You will know what you've gone through in your past relationships. It takes time to clear our bodies and our wounds from this, and you will do this. Liberating your sexual energy is not about promiscuity or action. It's a feeling within you of complete acceptance, of adoration, it's almost like you feel into this sexual energy and you're like bowing down to it because you know that this is so much bigger than you. It's so powerful, and you are the vessel. It's chosen to flow through you, and you feel, the only way I can describe it is you feel like it's a miracle. You feel like you're experiencing a miracle. And trust me, I didn't come here into this feeling of being able to feel that deeply and that openly without going through a healing journey. And without healing all of the things that my body was holding and my energy field was holding and my womb was holding. So go through a chronology. I love my chronologies. And those of you who've done them and benefited from doing chronological work will hopefully know why it's effective, because we need some structure to do this work, right? Go through a chronology of your childhood, especially if you did experience childhood sexual abuse, and just maybe make a note from childhood to the present day of the main kind of sexual experiences that you've had, who they were with, and what age you were, how you felt at the time, and what your relationship was like with your body, what your relationship was like with your womb, what your relationship was like with your sexual energy and with arousal. Right? You might have had a strong connection with your body because you're really fit and healthy and you're an athlete, but you didn't really feel aroused. And you never really reconciled that. You just never thought about it again. And therefore, now is the time to go through all of these things then you will remember, and they will come up in when you start to do this practice. You have all these kind of little markers in your timeline. These markers are very important. They're like these insights into where you were at that point in time, and take stock of where you are now, because we're always opening up to deeper pleasure. There's no limit. There's no limit to how much sexual energy we can allow through us when we are not blocked, when we are not blocking our own pleasure, joy, miracle. So when you've come up with that, you're going to look at this timeline and you're going to see, okay, this happened when I was 7, this happened when I was 4. Then you're going to go into your teenage years. When I was 13, when I was 14, 15, maybe you had some of your first sexual experiences in your teens. Go into your adult life, early 20s, 30s. Go into, maybe you've gone through menopause. Go through the menopausal experiences of being aroused. How has your relationship with arousal changed? Do you let it in more now? Do you trust it more? Do you still feel a bit shy? Do you shut it down completely? Are you still holding fear, judgment, terror, maybe? Whatever it is, it's completely normal. Let's normalize the fact that arousal is not just this one singular thing that happens and boom, we get aroused, we're now aroused. No, that's not what arousal is all about. Arousal is like taking a meandering path, really powerfully flowing through our identity to free ourselves. That's how I feel arousal. It's a mirror. Arousal is a very powerful mirror to us, to what we've gone through, to our potential, how much we're letting in. This is why sexual energy and sexual healing is so powerful. When it's done right, in the right way, with the right level of awareness and presence, the right person, you can experience a lot of deep healing through the sexual experience, because it's such a powerful mirror. We're going to do more in-depth somatic work and energetic work and tantric exploration, this is tantra effectively. It's the experience of recognizing the mirror of your own sexual energy and how that's mirrored back to you, and how that teaches you to love yourself over and over again. This is tantra, it's a prayer. We're going to do more of that work when we do our energetic mastery modules. And in the meantime, see if you can get your chronologies done and reflect back on them. Maybe set some intentions from where you are now on how you want to move forward. How do you want to open up to more sexual pleasure? And we're all going to write, yeah, more sexual pleasure, please. More arousal, please. I'd love more of that. Give it to me, right? But it's all there. How are we blocking it? That's where we need to start asking the questions and doing the work. Make some notes. How do you block your own stream of arousal? And why do you do it? What does it relate to in the past? What programs and belief systems does it relate to? When you've explored that, if you have anything you'd like to share or ask, please post it on this video below and I can help you through this process. See what comes up. Do this over the course of maybe 4 or 5 days. Take it slow and remember not to judge yourself, whatever comes up, because chances are when we get together and we talk about this, we're all going to have very similar experiences. So there's nothing that you need to judge yourself about. And just remember that it's a journey and you're here doing this healing work. You're going to remember that, and you're going to have the tools going forward for the rest of your life to be able to heal. And there's no rush. There's no rush to open up into things that you don't feel fully comfortable to. So take things, and especially this particular class, take this at your own pace.